I want to bring in Georgia Congressman Austin Scott. He's a member of the House Intelligence, Armed Services, Rules, and Agricultural Committees. Congressman, good morning. This new revelation was a bit of a surprise to many because we've been talking about this for months, about the fact that not just that the border is not secure, but that they have other suspects that they have apprehended on the terror watch list. This isn't the first time we've been told this.
No, and none of this should be a surprise to the American citizens. I mean, some of the information regarding the border is classified. The only reason it is classified is to protect the Biden-Harris administration and the failures of their actions at the border. And so, obviously, one of the first things President Trump will do once sworn into office will be to sign an executive order putting Remain in Mexico back in place and starting the construction of the wall. It's a great threat to every American. It is a great threat to everybody who is legally immigrated to the United States of America. And again, it's no surprise to anybody who's paying attention to it. But all of the information regarding the border and those crossings from people that are on the terrorist watch list, it should all be declassified. The only reason it is classified, again, is to protect the Biden-Harris administration from the threat that they brought into our homeland in the United States of America.
Yeah, well, we've got this new CBS News YouGov poll that finds that former President Trump leads Vice President Kamala Harris in your home state of Georgia. So Trump is up 3 points. Both candidates held rallies in Atlanta during the week. Last week it was Harris, and then over the weekend it was Trump and Vance. So Trump wants to make the economy the focus. He's blaming Harris for yesterday's stock market sell-off. He wrote on Truth Social, it's the Trump cash versus Kamala crash. Here is Associated Press reporter Michelle Price warning that the stock market plunge could hurt Harris's momentum. Watch this.
The Trump campaign has already started not only using that hashtag, but they've been repackaging the memes that Harris's team has been putting out there. They just a little bit ago this morning posted the brat meme with, the stock market is tanking in the font, that everything that has been in this honeymoon period might seem kind of silly compared to when people are looking at their 401ks or when they're going to start looking at gas prices or they're looking at what it costs at the grocery store, that the hype that is kind of coming back down to earth, we might be entering that phase that the Trump campaign has been waiting for.
Congressman, your thoughts, and is that what the Trump campaign is going to now capitalize on? Put down the name calling, as Lindsey Graham and others have said, and focus on policy and her record?
Well, I hope so. And remember this, I mean, Donald Trump is a business owner, and that is the reason that he was able to, through reducing rules and regulations with executive order and through fixing the tax code that led to the highest tax revenue that we've ever had in the history of the country, we were able to have the economic growth that we had under his leadership. And but for COVID, there's no telling where the economy would be right now. And so he was doing a great job of managing the economy and getting job growth, and everything was doing real good. Then COVID happened. Obviously, that created a problem that I personally think he managed through COVID pretty well. I think the things we did in a bipartisan manner helped survive what was a huge health crisis, not just for the United States, but for the world. And I think Donald Trump being a business owner and understanding what it takes to create those jobs inside the United States of America, and those private sector jobs is where we have to have job growth come from to support the public sector jobs, is what made him such a great president from the standpoint of getting the economy back on track. And so the first day in office, I think he'll do 2 executive orders. I think one will deal with border security, and I think the other one will deal with energy. And this inflation that's killing everyday working Americans, it is in large part due to what Harris and Biden have done on their energy policy that has raised the cost of fuel. It's raised the cost of your power bill. And imagine if you run in a grocery store, I mean, you have to embed that in the cost of everything you sell in that grocery store. So I think on day one, given the chance, Donald Trump is going to sign executive orders that are going to create a secure border and reduce the cost of energy inside the United States of America. And everybody in this country is going to benefit from those 2 things.
When you talk to your constituents in Georgia, what do they tell you? What is the most important thing to them? Do they talk about the economy? Do they talk about the border? Other issues? What are you hearing from them? And because I'm trying to, with Trump ahead by, 3 points in Georgia, maybe those are the things that they're focused on versus identity politics.
No, it's economics and specifically inflation, the cost of groceries, the cost of fuel, the cost of energy. It is The Democrats continuing to say they're going to raise taxes on everybody. Let's be clear, a tax increase on one is a tax increase on everybody. And when you're taking more money out of the business owner's pocket, that's less money that's paid out in wages. Everybody knows that. Kamala can't, sugarcoat that like she wants to and pretend that she's only going to tax the business owners, and that's not going to hurt the people that works at the businesses. So it's about the economy. It is about the border and what's happening at the border and the threat that's coming into this country. And it's about national security. And so when you look at Israel and the Middle East, Kamala and Biden have shown a separation between the U.S. and Israel, and that is horrible for peace in the Middle East. And Trump never allowed any division between the United States and Israel. He made it very clear that the United States will not stand by and allow anybody to attack Israel. And then he did the Abraham Accords and other things, and things were moving in the right direction under Donald Trump, because he made it clear that there was no separation between Israel and the United States. And now under the Harris and Biden administration, they're coming out and putting demands on Netanyahu and Israel, when it is Hamas that is holding the hostages that are Israeli citizens.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in the next part of the show. Congressman Austin Scott. Congressman, thank you very much. Appreciate it this morning.